Cody Janzen, Saskatchewan Rush play-by-play is here. Cody, it's sad seeing your friends get old, and you did not used to wear glasses on this show, but yet here you are.
Well, again, I don't have to. I'm just in the office, and so if you're saying it's a bad look, I'll trust you, Mike. But yeah, again, it's just a little easier on the eyes, right? You're standing at a screen all day. I don't mind the blue light glasses.
That's fair. So, hey, first of all, good call on the Las Vegas Desert Dogs game. I mean, wasn't much excitement, but good win for the Rush, who improved to 4-1, 15-9. I gotta ask you about Ryan Keenan. Just right off the bat here, had a what looks to be a breakout game for him this year with 4 goals, 3 assists. How big was that for the team? And talk about the game in general.
Yeah, I think like the game in general, probably not the most exciting game in the world, but you also hope that those games against a team who's probably going to be like bottom three in the league this year, you probably hope those aren't that interesting. For Keenan, though, that's a big one, right? He's your captain. He got off to a tough start. You don't expect that type of numbers from him through 4 games. And so in game 5, he kind of pops off. That's huge, right? Like that's a guy second on the team in scoring last year. He had 90 points. Like he was literally the next man up. And so for him to score 4, I think it's kind of one of those things of like, yeah, he's still got it. Like it's still Ryan Keenan. The guy's an unbelievable lacrosse player. Sometimes you get snake bit. It happens, right? Sometimes you overthink it. You're gripping the stick too tight. You're doing things a little differently. But I mean, the guy can still ball out. There's no doubt about it. So sometimes you need to get right game. And that's what Vegas felt like.
Zach Mans keeps it up with another good game for himself. How impressive was he in this game, and how good has he been this year for you guys?
It's funny to say like 8 points in the game. It's impressive, but like it didn't feel like it was a Zach Mann's game. It
Right.
wasn't like, oh, he's the reason they won. It wasn't like the sock trick against Halifax. It wasn't like, the couple of transition goals there against Rochester that were just like great timing. It was just a normal night for Zach Mans, which is crazy to say because he had 8 points in a National Lacrosse League game, but like that's just what we expect. That's what we see from Zach Mans. He's so good. He's so dynamic, and that's why he's fourth in the league in goals right now. And I'd say he's probably put himself in that top 10 forward conversation with the way he's been playing.
I mean, yeah, and I think when he got there last year, like it was expected that he was going to start stepping up and being the number one possibly. Looks like he's doing that pretty well this year officially. Um, so the Rush have played 3 overtime games this year. They're 2-1. They won at Albany, won versus Halifax, finally lost versus Philly. What did you see from those 3 games, and how good was that for the team moving forward?
Well, this is a team that was 1-7 in close games last year, right? In 1 or 2 goal games, they were 1-7. They were not good. They were
Mm.
0-2 in overtimes. They just couldn't seem to get the bounces, couldn't get possession when they needed it, couldn't close out games. They were blowing leads. It's got a different feel, right? Because if you can win close games in the NLL, you're going to give your team a puncher's chance every night because there's a lot of close games in this league. 1 through 14 seems like there's always good games going on, right? Like we just saw it with the 14th best team in Toronto playing the first team in Buffalo, right? They played them to a 2 goal game. Count the empty netter. But like, there's no easy nights in the National Lacrosse League. And so if you're a team that can win close games, you've got a chance to go on a run. And so for Saskatchewan, I think it's as simple as that, is that, hey, you get this team a little bit of confidence. They, should be a playoff team. I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that. If they don't make the playoffs, that's a disappointment. But once you get into the playoffs, you still got to win. You can't just be content.
Oh yeah, for sure. And those close games last year, the close games this year, could be the difference in the team's mentality in general. Frank Chiliano. I've been a big fan of his already this season. He's looked very good and consistently. How big is that for this team, considering he's got the playoff history people like to bring up?
I mean, listen, show me a good goalie, I'll show you a good team, right? Like it's not hard to kind of decipher how valuable a goaltender is in this league, especially when it's the hardest position out of all of them, right? So you get consistent goaltending out of Shiliano, you're gonna give your team a chance every single night. So even for him, I think if you can get 780, 790 Frank Filiano in the save percentage category, That's what you need. The Rush aren't going to give up a ton of shots. They never have. They're usually giving up between 40 and 50 shots a game. They're not a team that's going to give up 60 plus. So it's like his numbers are never going to be sexy. But it's, again, he's going to be a goaltender that if you're going to win with him between the pipes, you need him to make the timely saves and the key saves. And he did that. He made 7 saves in overtime against Albany. He made a stop against Rochester. They hit the post as well with like 20 seconds left, but like a minute left. Skiggs makes a huge stop in that one, right? Halifax, stop in overtime, right? Like, if you're getting those timely saves out of your goaltender, and that's what the Rush need out of Frank Chilion, right? Like, I don't need him to be this numbers guy, top 3 in the league, fancy stats, goals saved against average. I don't really give a shit. End of the day, it's like, is he giving this team a chance to win, and is he going to make the timely saves? Because if he is, that's what I want between the pipes.
That could be a good thing. Is well, the timely saves. It's like Matt Vince last year. Like we want to do that. I'm not saying he's Matt Vince, but it's true. So, I was going to mention the rookies, and good thing this comment came up from our good pal Hunter Smith. Jake Naso, you got Brock Haley, Levi Anderson, Josh Zawada. The other player, Matt Accioni, I believe, is the name. Tell me about all the rookies you've seen, especially, of course, Jake Naso.
Holy, let's just go right down the roster, eh? Okay, let's start with Naso. It's in the chat. What's up, Daily Dive chat? Jake Naso. Let's start with him. The first game, I think that first half, it was rough for him, right? Like, it's a totally different game than anything he's ever played before. Like, it was an eye opener, right? And I think it took him some time to adapt. But once he figured it out, I mean, the guy works his nuts off. Like, he is just one of the hardest workers out there. He's not afraid. He'll go get loose balls. He'll go toe-to-toe with her. I mean, look at the game against Philly, right? He wins a face-off. He'll go scoop up loose balls. He'll go and crash and bang. He ain't afraid of anyone grabbing his cage and giving him a little spin around, right? Like, he is actually an effective player because he's fearless. And I think that's what makes a successful face-off guy. You're not going to win all these face-offs clean in this league. You're just not, right? So you kind of have to be able to go and play some bully ball once in a while. And when you're Jake Naso's size, it's not often. A lot of guys play scared. There's a lot of guys, afraid to get hit, worried about when the next 6'4" mutant's going to come and try and rip their arm off. But, like, Naso's found a way around that, and he's getting better when he wins those faceoffs and running into trouble. He's good at finding that open guy or getting the ball into an empty space, right? Like, he's getting better at that, which is awesome to see. Other rookies, Zawada's only played a couple of games, but when he gets in, he's been pretty good. Oh, sorry, go.
No, I was just going to ask you before we get to the other ones. Jake Naso, was the Philly game the one where, like, he kind of, like, got, like, his, like, someone, like, blindside?
Yeah, Scott Dominic jumped him there.
Okay.
Again, it's a whatever. I've said it before. Like, I don't mind what like the Philly did. Like, hey, Naso went and crashed the crease. End of the day, it was whatever the Wings D-man pushed him into their goalie. So, like, hard to be pissed off at Naso for that. But also every other, like, 14 out of 14 teams are doing that. So it's a little bit of a whatever burger in my mind. But I give credit anytime someone sticks up for their teammate. I don't care who you think is at fault. At the end of the day, good teams do that for each other. But it's also like, hey, Messenger came in, had a couple of words. I don't know. Sometimes you kind of want to see whoever on the Rush maybe jump in there and grab a hold of the Philly guy and, see some mitts hit the turf. But, hey, that's old school Janner thinking on that one. So, no, Naso's been good, but on the forwards, like Zawada and Anderson, they've had 2 and 3 games respectively. I think they've been good. They're going to take some time to adapt. They've been playing a lot of field lacrosse over the last 4 or 5 years, so, like, kind of expected them to take a little bit of time to adapt. Matt Accioni's been awesome. Like, that's a great depth defenseman. You got a guy a bit undersized, but he, again, works his tail off, isn't afraid of anyone, loose ball machine, smart, thinks the game well. And then, I just think that there's such value in having young depth guys in the league where, like, it always feels like their engine's going, right? And, like, that's a huge thing I see with Accioni. And then to finish it off with a fifth, it's Brock Haley. And that's where I think, his engine's always going. Every time Brock Haley has the ball, he's a threat, right? And that's what you want out of an offensive guy. You see it with some of the best. And we just saw, like, Joe Rezateritz and Mitch Jones. Like, those two guys, every time they have the ball, they're a threat. That's what you want. That's what I see in a Brock Haley is this guy's got a nose for the net. And, I like seeing that in a guy. I don't want to see a guy timid, trying to be a passive player. That's what makes Robert Church, Zach Mann so effective. Those guys get to the middle, they take their shots, and they've got confidence, right? So I see a lot of that in Brock Haley, and I think that guy, could be contending for Rookie of the Year at the end of the year.
I love that so much. And like, I believe I mentioned it on like the recent draft. I don't know how many of these guys are from the recent draft, but it's like so many guys the Rush just stole from everybody. They're just eating up. I love it so much for the Saskatchewan Rush and their fans, by the way.
Well, it's crazy that all of a sudden like a team can just like quit on a guy like Brock Haley. Like not that that's exactly what Vancouver did. Like, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to find him an apartment for his dog, or maybe they just didn't like seeing it. It's insane to me, Mike. Like, we could dive into the whole dirt of it, but like a team to just give up on Brock Haley. Listen, this guy had like 120 goals a couple summers ago playing juniors. Like, something no one else has like ever done. And I don't know, a team's going to move on from him that quick. It's crazy. We're like, Brock Haley in a few years could score 40 goals in a year, and we'd be like, yeah, it's Brock Haley. Like, no shit, right? Like, this guy is that good. I'm telling you.
Oh, well, I love that. I got to ask you about the Rock, because a hungry Rock team coming up who just played the Bandits well. What is the biggest challenge the Toronto Rock raised to the Rush?
They're the hungriest team in the league, aren't they? Oh. Again, if not to say a loss in January eliminates you from the playoffs, but if you pick up 6 losses before, Valentine's Day, you're kind of in trouble, right? Like that's an issue. That's a red flag right there. So I'm not saying that the Rush have a chance to eliminate the Rock from the playoffs, but you can kind of end their season here if you put them behind the 8 ball for a 6th time. And so I think that's the scariest part, is the Rush have built themselves up a cushion. But you can't think like that. As a player, you got to think of what's next. How can I continue to move north? And, if you take your foot off the pedal being like, well, Toronto's 0-5, the worst team in the league, you're screwed. Toronto's just going to pound the piss out of you, right? They're still a good lacrosse team, and they're getting some guys back off the IR. And so, they've got this potential. They're a team that knows how to win. I don't know. Not going to be an easy one for sure. They're playing in that junior hockey rink now, so it's going to be small, loud, packed, intimidating place to go into. I think it's going to be a great game. I don't know. You want to watch a team who's on the up and up in Saskatchewan take on a team who's trying to, prove that they're not on, not the back 9, but the back 2 or 3, right? Like, they've got some older guys there, right, that aren't going to be in the league 5 years from now. But they want to prove that they can still win, and I think that that's the interesting part in Saskatchewan, Toronto this weekend.
I mentioned Ryan Keenan kind of breaking out again. Which player would you like to see, or players, really have a game this weekend that can not just help this weekend, but also going forward for the rest of the season?
I still think that the transition offense is something Saskatchewan can improve on. Like, we've seen like Barnable and Boudreau have some success. I want to see Mike Messenger bury a few. I think he's got the ability in transition. He knows that he can go out there and bury a few, but I think that this is definitely something where he can impact a game a little bit more. And so I think that that's an interesting one. Boudreau and Barnable, it's more so just keep going and keep firing. Like, frick, I don't know. Those guys have scored a couple each this year. Keep shooting it in transition. I want to see more of that. Like, this is a team that can play. Jarrett Smith, guys like that, Hossack, right? Like, they've got some transition threats that they've been good, but not great. And I think that's also the exciting part, is I still think that the Rush have not been nearly at their ceiling this year. Like, they still have a lot of things to clean up, and they're 4-1. So you flip a few things around, this team could be real dangerous.
Not to put your color guy for, what is your color guy's name again? I love the guy. I always forget his name.
John
Fraser. So John mentioned during the broadcast of the Dogs is that, like, Boudreau's being more passive sometimes, which is like showing maturity. But you seem like you might want him to take a little bit more shots in transition. How are you feeling about it? Because I love Boudreau.
It's all time and place, right? Like, there's a time where I think, passing on that shot is the right play to do, and veterans know that. I think that, I don't know, I want to see early in games. I want to see the Rush pushing the pace a little bit more. I want to see them putting teams' defenses in uncomfortable situations. And what can you do for that? Use your speed and attack and transition.
Real quick, you talked about the game in Mississauga. I gotta ask you, are you there right now? Because are you still doing the road radio stuff?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we're still doing the road radio.
What-
I'm not there yet. No, we fly out Friday morning.
Oh.
Also, cool on that. No, I appreciate the shout out there in a sense of like, hey, we've always been on the radio in Saskatoon and surrounding area there on the Bull. They've now added 4 more stations, so it's super cool that now it's a lot more around the province, right? So Kindersley, Rosetown, Swift Current, Estevan, all those small communities. Like Saskatchewan's huge, right? And so to be able to reach more fans, more people, that's a cool thing that the Rush have been really pushing and doing, because we are a provincial team, right? It's not just a city-based, it's everywhere.
So I'm allowed to ask about Montana Lacrosse League?
You're not to ask anything, Mike.
Because aren't you like the GM of like the Crusaders or whatever
Hey,
it was?
that's what I was doing this fall. You were there. You saw it. That's
Oh, is this like the champion Crusaders?
Yeah, that was fun. That was awesome. I tip my hat to guys like Ryan Hanavan, everything they're doing. Like, I know you talk about growing the game and how lacrosse can be better. Like, tell me if I'm wrong, but like what Ryan Hanavan does is perfect. Like, that guy does what I don't know. I mean, if you're the NLL, you should be throwing 6 figures at that guy to be like, hey, help us out here. No? Like that that guy does is he makes the game accessible. And so that's a huge thing, right? In a sport that wants to grow, I think that someone like Ryan's awesome. What he's doing in Missoula is awesome. Yeah, being a part of the MLL, that was a ton of fun. But like, there was so much more that went on behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, I was just being there. It was my first ever lacrosse like event in general, and it was amazing, the show that was put on there. Jake Nasa was on your Crusaders. I don't know how you managed that, but pretty good.
Well, he had reached out even before. Like he knew he wanted to play box lacrosse, right? So like he had reached out through Ryan, whoever before, and so there was a few other Americans too that I wanted to see out there, but. Again, end of the day, you can't get everyone. That's what it is. But it was cool to see him. I think that there's still other guys there that probably should be in the league. I think there's a little bit of bias still against guys from Alberta, Saskatchewan, stuff like that. But like all in all, I thought that was cool. I can't wait for season 2 and what Ryan and everyone's got in store, because they're great people down in Montana. There, like it's not just Ryan, it's Bryce, it's Jimmy, it's all those guys that are doing so much good for the game. And so like any way I can help out, man, I'm gonna do it, because like it's, as I said, there's a lot less red tape down there. And I think that those guys are truly in it for the right reasons.
We had jerseys for sale. It was fantastic. I love the whole thing. And Cody, nice retro look, by the way, today with your hoodie. I know.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. I know we went a little bit further than what we probably would have liked today, but we're scheduled for. But you were awesome as always. Brought the fire. Thank you so much, and have fun in Mississauga, dude.
Hey, always a pleasure, Mike. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Cody Janzen, Saskatchewan Rush.